Hey everybody, this is Brian.
Jason.
And this is the Perfectly Screwed Podcast. Episode 118, second part of our Amityville series, the end of it here. Now, for all of you who don't know, we're doing the drinking game. In the last episode, I was kind of slacking because there was only one hit, though, the last episode. One, Jason.
Yes, there was.
And it's only because we're doing half an hour now instead of an hour. When we did an hour, it was much longer. But I felt that I was cheating our listeners because I was not participating in said drinking game last time. I was only drinking coffee.
Now Brian does have a fresh brew.
I do. There's a fresh cracker right there.
There it is. Yeah. First thing in the morning here. Brian likes to say, you can't drink all day if you don't start in the morning.
Damn right. Miller High Life.
It's the champagne of beers.
I like it. Champagne, yes. Lovely.
I don't really like beer. If I were to drink beer, that would be the High Life. I do enjoy a High Life. I do enjoy beer. Sometimes a little too much, which explains the weight gain. Anyways, back to what we're talking about. Amityville. So we were talking about the Fail on the last episode and the weird stuff that went on. If you haven't listened to episode 117, please go back and listen to that one first. Although independently, you could listen to this one. But, okay, so he kills his whole family in 1974, says that an entity told him to do it. And there's some weird stuff that went on with that. So in 1975, almost a year later, it was November, early December of 1975, is when George and Kathy Lutz move into this exact same house. Well, and I mean, Brian, how do you feel? I mean, you're out looking for homes, trying to buy a house for the family.
Right.
You visited a couple open houses, you've looked around, see what fits best. Here's a home where an entire family was murdered. Would that...
Well, I don't think they knew
that deter you in any way?
I don't think they necessarily knew everything that went on.
But they had to know there was murders. Yeah,
they knew there was murders because they got to tell them.
I personally just don't think that I could do it. Like if somebody was like, this is a nice house, nice area in town, the price is right, but an entire family was murdered. I think I'm looking elsewhere is all I'm saying.
Well, the first thing is, this is a gorgeous home. I mean, if you've ever seen the actual Amityville house, it's
it is a nice
unbelievably beautiful home. In fact, like I said, it's in a very affluent area, too. It's very up and coming, very rich. It sits on its own lake. I mean, it's
a big selling point.
And plus, they were getting it for basically nothing.
Yes.
Because, like you said, a whole family is murdered there. Yeah. So, and it was known around the area, so they couldn't really sell it for
top
dollar. In fact, here's a transcript, because they did an episode of In Search Of with Leonard Nimoy, the Lutz family, in 1979, which was a paranormal show where they interviewed people.
Yeah.
And George said, and I said to Kathy, do you believe this? And she said, no, I don't believe this. It's a lovely house. We don't feel there's anything wrong with the house from looking at it. The house, it seems to be just a happy home, and I can't believe we're getting it for this price.
Well, I don't know about happy home, Kathy.
Well,
I mean, I'll agree with you that the price is right.
Well, not only that, it was fully furnished. This is the fucking macabre thing. They left all the furniture.
Oh, wow.
From the DeFeo family in the house.
Yeah, that is.
So Kathy, being the bargain hunter that she was, decided, yes, we're going to keep the furniture.
Why not?
She kept the beds and the bed frames, replaced the mattresses, mind you, because, blood stains.
Yeah.
Holes from
Come
bullets.
on. Yeah, we couldn't get it all out. We tried to scrub.
But they kept the bed frames.
Wow.
I mean, you're sleeping in the bed frame of someone, double homicide, no big deal, it's cool.
Yeah, man, that is macabre. You're right. That is absolutely weird.
So, they realized very soon they made a mistake. Within the first few days of living there, they said they started hearing weird things happening in the house. Especially, and the weird thing is, at 3:15 a.m.
What? Oh, really?
Yes.
Well, I mean, according to Ron, the place was already haunted or paranormal.
Yeah. But at 3:15 a.m. every single night from the day they moved in,
that's weird. George
would be awakened at exactly 3:15 a.m. by noises.
Huh.
They started hearing things. They started seeing things move. Kathy and George were also heavily into Catholicism. And Kathy would hang pictures of Jesus and crosses up around the house. They would be turned upside down. The pictures would be removed and turned the other way to face the wall instead of facing out. They would be knocked off the wall. So after this went on for a very short time, about a week, they're like, something's going on, man. This is fucking crazy. Plus, they knew about the murders. They're like, look, this ain't right.
Yeah.
Something's happened.
Yeah.
So it's funny because they were only actually living in the house 28 fucking days before they ran out in terror. They left in the middle of the night, left all their shit, said fuck you and the house.
Really?
Yeah, they made movers go back and get the shit. They wouldn't even go back in the fucking house. So within a week, they get a priest, Father Ray. And at first, he gave an interview on this In Search Of. But then Father Ray later on tried to distance himself from this, mainly from pressure from the Catholic Church that, hey, you need to stop talking about this bullshit, buddy, or else you're no longer a priest.
Yeah.
So later on, he said, I didn't
get back to regular Catholic priest.
Yeah,
shit.
later on,
need to be butt fucking little boys.
Right. Yeah, we can't have this.
Come on.
Can't talk about demons and shit, guy. Come on.
Jesus Christ.
This is the Catholic Church. We're known for rape and molestation, not for
together,
demons.
Ray.
Yeah. Jesus Christ, man. Go back to sucking off altar boys. Stop this nonsense.
Right.
So he distanced himself later on and recounted, I fucked up. Recounted.
Everybody,
grab
your glasses. Bottoms up.
Jesus Christ, I guess I got to too.
Yeah, go ahead.
Recanted is what I was trying to say. He recanted his statement.
Right.
That beer is warm and tastes like piss. All right, lovely. Anyways, so Father Ray came out this first time to bless the house, and they were only there about 6-7 days when this happened. He was blessing the house, and he said he went into the sewing room, which Kathy's sewing room happened to be the room that all the little kids were killed in. His brothers and sisters had been killed in the sewing room. He said when he went in the sewing room, even though the rest of the house was cool, the whole house was kind of cool and a cold feeling, he said, but when he went in the sewing room, he said the temperature dropped drastically. He said he could see his breath.
Oh, wow.
In the sewing room. And this is an upstairs room. So you would think upstairs it would be warmer. You see what I'm saying? Than the lower part of the house. But he said it was
depending on what time of the year.
Well, it was November, it was December. So it was cold.
Right.
But
you shouldn't be seeing your breath.
Right. Especially when the rest of the house he's not.
Yeah.
And in the upstairs room, how's it colder than the downstairs room? See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So he goes in the sewing room, he says he sees his breath, and then he said as he was blessing it, something told him, he heard something say, get out. And then said, as he kept blessing it, he said, he just thought, it's my imagination and whatnot. He said, he heard it again, get the fuck out, Father. Yeah.
Wow.
And he said he still tried to dismiss it, kept blessing the house. And then he heard, get the fuck out now, and something slapped him across the fucking face. He had a red mark all down his fucking side of his face. Kathy and George both said they saw the red mark. He said he knows he was slapped. He said he was slapped so hard it knocked his fucking thing that he was blessing the house with out of his hand, and he almost fell down.
Damn.
Stumbled back, had to grab the sewing table. So he immediately, at that point, left the house. He said he left the house very quickly.
I mean, it doesn't. It like you said, it is in line with the things that Ronald said about there being an entity that physically hands him a gun. The fact that these people were all killed sleeping the same way, almost like something was pinning them down.
Yeah. And not letting them wake up.
Yeah, and not, you're right.
Well, not only this, here's even something more interesting. The next day, and this is documented medically, the priest had to go to his doctor the next day after this happened.
For the slap in the face?
Watch. He woke up the next day, had boils and blisters all down in the shape of a handprint on his face.
God.
And within a couple days, it spread to half his body. Doctor had
Talk about a bitch slap.
Well, this is the other thing. Doctor had no physical reason for this to happen. They checked him out completely. They said, you're in perfect health. No physical reason for you to have blisters and boils all over you.
Wow.
Within a week after that, they disappeared magically with no treatment whatsoever. Just saying.
Just saying.
I'm just putting it out there.
So there's something strange going on.
Yeah. So, again, 3:15 every day, George is awakened by noises. Sometimes he's awakened for no reason. He wanders the house. He goes down to the second floor. The noises stop. Okay, when he gets to the second floor, which is the first floor of the house, because he's sleeping on the second floor. The interesting thing is between 3 and 4, considered the Christian religion, that's called the witching hour. And it's a blasphemy of the Holy Trinity. 3 o'clock, 3, Holy Trinity. And they say that between 3 and 4 a.m. is when spirits from evil spirits are more likely to attack in our world. And it's a very ancient Christian tradition. Between 3 and 4, you're supposed to be asleep because that's when evil spirits roam the earth. And it's been said that whole time, and that's when DeFeo killed his family. That's when George Lutz keeps waking up. During the same time, Kathy, at 3 o'clock, while George is awake, she said at 3 a.m. almost every morning, she would start having terrible nightmares. She knew exactly in what order the DeFeos were killed from the nightmares. She knew where the bullets were and all of this without doing any research whatsoever on the murders. She said in the nightmares she was holding a rifle. She knew what caliber, everything about the rifle, knew where all of the family members had been shot, when they'd been shot, and in what order they'd been shot from her dreams.
That's wild.
That is wild. Again, just saying. Also, their behavior started to change. They were very, very, they never hit their children, never disciplined them harshly. By all accounts, the children even said this.
Who, Lutz's?
Yeah.
They had children living with them in the house?
Yeah, they had children living with them.
All right.
Which was George's stepchildren. But, so, during the time they lived in the house, though, the children said they became increasingly violent with him, very hostile with him. Started even to the point beating them with wooden spoons and making them stand in corners for hours and prance around in marching order, saying what they did wrong, doing things that were completely out of character for this couple who had never ever spanked their children once. Also, George said you couldn't get warm in the house at all. He would turn up the heater as high as it would go. He would start fires in the fireplaces, and still you couldn't. He would take a thermometer, and the house would still be 45 to 50 degrees at all times, with roaring fires going in fireplaces and the heat on 80.
Wow.
And still could not get the house warm. They also saw black stains starting to happen in the sinks and toilets. This black stuff would stain the sinks and toilets. They checked the plumbing, got a plumber out there, nothing wrong with the plumbing. They scrubbed the black stains. They would come off the very next day. They'd be back there again. Also, the same black substance they saw coming out of keyholes in all the doors. They would wipe it up, scrub it off. Next day, back there again. And nobody can explain what the black stuff was. They had people come out, look at it. They don't know what it was. So, Christmas Day, and another thing that keeps happening at 3:15, which George starts to notice, is there's a boathouse near the lake, right outside the house. At 3:15, because he keeps getting awakened, he'd be checking the house, making sure nobody's breaking in because he hears, intruder noises. So he happens to look out the window, start looking out the windows, see if anybody's outside the house, maybe fucking around.
Yeah.
So he notices the boathouse door is always open at 3:15. He would lock it with a padlock. He was the only one who had a key. He knew he didn't open it.
Yeah, it's open.
And it would be open, padlock unlocked, open at 3:15 a.m. every morning. So Christmas Day, he's out at the boathouse trying to figure out again why the door's open. He said something made him just look back. When he looked back, there was a little girl called Missy, and she was in one of the rooms. That was his stepdaughter. And he said he clearly saw someone standing at her bedroom window. So he's freaking out, thinking somebody broke in the house. He runs back in the house. By the time he gets upstairs, she's dead asleep. Nobody's in the bedroom. Now, Missy, let's get on to Missy for a second. So right after Christmas Day, or a couple days.
How old's Missy?
She's just a little girl, maybe 8 or 9.
Okay.
So a couple days after Christmas, and they see this figure in the window. Kathy's walking down the hallway cleaning. George is off to work. And Kathy hears Missy talking to somebody. Like little girls, imaginary friends, they would do. But she heard somebody talking back. And she's like, wait a second, no, the kids are in the house. They're off, whatever. Missy's talking to somebody. She's talking to somebody else. So she opens the door. There's nobody in the room but Missy. But the rocking chair, she had a little rocking chair like little girls do. It was moving by its fucking self. With nobody near it. And at that time, she goes, hey, who are you talking to? And Missy says, do angels ever come and talk to you? And the mom goes, what do you mean? She said, I seen an angel. Her name's Jody. And she's a little pig.
A little pig?
A little pig named Jody. And so at this point, Missy's talking to somebody that ain't there, a little pig named Jody, who's also an angel. She said it looks like an angel at first with wings and everything, and then it turns into a little pig. And then it talks to me, and then it becomes an angel again.
Huh?
Yeah.
What the hell?
So they ask at this point Father Ray to come out again. They're like, hey, we need you to bless this house again.
Oh, shit. He's got to be a little apprehensive.
Father Ray said no.
Yeah, I was going to say, hell no, bro.
Father Ray said, no way.
So.
His exact quote was, I will never step foot in that house ever again.
I don't blame him. I don't blame him. Dude got bitch slapped, fucking boils and shit.
So, this is the interesting thing. Right at this time, after they asked Father Ray, and he refuses to come back, they're looking more in the house. So, Kathy goes down to the basement one day. And they're in the basement, and they're looking at a bookshelf, and she notices the bookshelf is weird because it looks like right next to the bookshelf in the basement. She said she kept canning stuff down there, like, food, whatnot.
Right.
But she said the bookshelf, it looked like there was a gap in the wall. So she thought, that's weird. So she started moving the bookshelf, sliding it away. Guess what she finds behind this bookshelf? A little tiny red door that the DeFeos knew were there, but they did not, like the Lutzes never knew this was in the basement. So it's a little tiny red door, short enough that you have to crawl to get into the room behind it. Still, nobody's ever said what the purpose of this is. To this day, they don't know what the purpose of this room is.
Yeah.
So they open the door, they go in. Every room, everything in the room was painted red. The walls, the floor, the ceiling, all painted red. They said it was about 5 foot by maybe 6 foot long enough that you could lay down in it, but you couldn't stand all the way up. And it's a little red room. And they said in the room, they could literally smell rotting flesh. And it was the same smell the police said that they smelled throughout the house when the DeFeos died. That was something that the police did know in their report, that the house smelled, even though they'd only been dead less than 24 hours. They said the whole house smelled like rotting meat.
Wow.
And the police couldn't figure that out.
That's strange because the house is cold.
Yeah. And nothing was in the room. Nothing was in the room.
Yeah.
Right.
Nothing in the red room.
Nothing. So there's no reason that room should have smelled like anything.
Yeah.
And like you said,
paint maybe.
Right. And it's in the basement, so it's even colder than the rest of the house.
Yeah.
Also interesting, that room was the coldest part of the house. They said you would walk into the basement, it'd be about 50 degrees. You'd go into this room and the temperature would drop to negatives, like -1, -2.
Almost like the entity was living there.
Right.
Oh my.
So at this point...
Dude, that would freak me out, seeing the little red door.
It's a little bit...
I ain't crawling in that motherfucker.
So at this point, they decide to try to bless the house themselves because no priest will come out and do jack.
Yeah.
So they start going around, reading the Lord's Prayer, opening windows, telling the entity to get out. When they get to the sewing room, which is where Father Ray got smacked and everything happened, they said in the middle of December, as soon as they entered the room, there was thousands, literally thousands of flies. Thousands of flies in this room. The interesting thing about that is also the police noted in their report the night the DeFeos died, again, they hadn't even been dead 24 hours yet. The house was infested with flies. Now, how do you get that many flies in the house less than 24 hours after people are shot?
Yeah.
You wouldn't.
Right.
And they said the upstairs bedrooms, when they opened them, when they found the DeFeos...
Even fucking in there, thousands of flies. Thousands. That's crazy.
Well, they said when they found the DeFeos, this was the other interesting thing about the police report. They said there was no flies in the house whatsoever. But they could smell that rotting meat smell.
Yeah.
But when they opened the bedrooms and found the bodies, thousands of flies came erupting from the bedrooms. So much so, the police had to leave the house so the flies could exit before they could go in and investigate it.
Man.
Yeah. Now explain that one. Because, so after this fly incident, one night at 3:15, and this is when things come to a head and they just said, I'm done with this bullshit. They literally said everybody in the house was awakened by loud bangs. It sounded like gunshots, they said, going off. The house started literally shaking. They said furniture was moving about. And at that point, they grabbed the kids. They said, fuck this shit, we're done.
Yeah.
And that's when they ran out of the house. And they stayed in a hotel and they said, we will not go back into the house.
Yeah.
So the house was on the market for a while, clearly. I think it was sold again in 77, 78, somewhere around there. Now, the residents after that said that, yes, they heard some moving, they heard some noises, but nothing like what the Lutzes had said. They did hear some noises and stuff in the house, but nothing that they said was what the Lutzes said.
Right.
And then as time went on and the house was resold and resold, but it's interesting because when it was resold in 77, 78, the people did move out rather quickly. They lived there less than 6 months.
Really?
Yeah. So they might not have wanted to say, yeah, we're experiencing the same shit, because they didn't want to be labeled as a nutbag.
Yeah.
Because at this point, there was a lot of credibility issues with the Lutzes, and they were in, a lot of, the book had came out, and the movie had came out, and they were being discredited and looked at as a bunch of nutbags.
It's definitely not normal to buy a home and then 6 months later be out of it.
Right.
Yeah.
But later people lived there longer, and they said they experienced nothing. So it's almost like whatever was causing these issues kind of faded over time.
So has anybody ever investigated what went on in the house before the DeFeos?
For all intents and purposes, I mean, the house was never labeled as
haunted or anything.
Haunted before that, no. Like I said, DeFeo, Ronald DeFeo said he started hearing voices in the house.
Well, there's clearly seems to be something. I mean, the slap across Father Ray's face. I mean, if that's true, right?
Well, he said it was true.
Yeah, and if this... I mean, if something physically fucking hit this dude to the point where he's got boils and blisters on his face, to the point where he, a priest is saying, "I will not go back in that house."
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, that's wild.
Right. I mean, like I said, later on, he did say that he lied and that he never went in the house. But that was much later on. This was way after, and this was also at the time when people were trying to say the DeFeos were lying and that the book was a lie and it was just for media attention. And there was a lot of pressure surrounding this whole thing to say it was bullshit. So later on, he said, no, that never happened. But of course you do. Because you don't want to look like the nutbag priest. Yeah. You don't want to be labeled the nutbag priest that, hey, I was in a haunted house. Yeah. And I'm sure, like I said, the Catholic Church was
congregation.
And I'm sure the Catholic Church was putting quite a bit of pressure on him to shut the fuck up.
To just, distance himself from it.
Right, because the Catholic Church at that time did not need, oh, hey, you're the fucking whack job nut priest who went in the Amityville house.
Right.
Right. Either shut up and tell them you never went in the house, or else don't have a job.
Yeah.
That's your choices right there. So, I'm sure that he did go in the house, because when it first happened, he was very clear that he did. And he said all of this, and it's documented that he had the boils and blisters. Yeah. Plus there's documentation that you can't deny, like the police saying that they saw the flies.
Yeah.
Right after the DeFeo murders. The police saying they smelled rotting meat smell. And then Kathy and George, without knowing the police report, said the same thing. It all kind of coincides. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? And see, a lot of people speculate that, Ronald DeFeo Sr., the father, was a very violent man. He beat his kids quite a bit and really beat Ronald Jr. a lot. There was also a lot of speculation that Ronald Jr. was having an incestuous relationship with his sister. So all of these things could bring like an evil energy or an evil spirit to attract to that family and to the house.
Yeah.
I mean, you're opening a doorway to evil entities coming into the house at this point.
But that's just, man, everything about it is just absolutely strange. Terrifying, really.
Well, and I mean, for the Lutz, you would think, of course, a house with 6 people murdered in their sleep, it would have some type of paranormal activity no matter what.
You would think so, absolutely.
Right.
That's why I asked you at the beginning. Like, I don't think that I could live in a house, buy a house. You know what I mean? I just don't think I would.
No.
I wouldn't want to.
Not with violence.
Deal with that.
No. Because I mean, you're inviting
ritual killing, basically.
You're inviting evil into your life at that point. I mean, there's got to be some kind of residual.
Fresh. I mean, we're not talking about. I mean, we're talking about.
Yeah,
you're talking
about not even a year.
Yeah,
it was like 8 months after the. Yeah, exactly. I mean, you're talking about right after the killings happened.
Fresh.
Yeah, and not only that, but you're keeping the furniture.
Yeah.
So you're keeping the ghost ties right there in the house.
Yeah.
So I mean,
congratulations on the deal.
But Jesus,
my God.
Yeah, I can see why you were out in 28 days. You were playing
with fire, yeah.
I see why you were out in 28 days. Whether it's a demon or just a ghost, you're dealing with shit you shouldn't be dealing with.
Right? Absolutely.
But anyways, this has been our episodes on Amityville. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and we will see you next time.
Later.